Driver, step out of the vehicle.
Face forward.
Face the other way.
I got him.
My 16-year-old daughter's in the car. Why do you have a gun on her? She's a special needs child. What are
Okay,
you
that's
doing?
fine.
Face forward. Face away from us.
me.
She doesn't understand what's going on.
Stop talking.
What are you doing?
How many people are in the car?
Just her. She's got epilepsy. What is going on? She's 16.
Come back towards the sound of my voice. Somebody needs to have my cover. Come back here. All the way back. All the way back. Is there anybody else in that car?
You confirm tag plate Kia Forte.
Oh my god.
Wrong vehicle, guys, so be careful.
I was at the wrong vehicle. I confirmed it. It's stolen right away.
What's happening is that this car, it was coming back as stolen for the deputy that was behind you, but we've just confirmed that car is not stolen. I'm getting her out of cuffs.
Hey, can we shut these lights off? She's epileptic.
Oh, get over yourself. Did I stutter? Yeah, people make mistakes.
Back, everybody. As many of you guys know, I'm a law enforcement trainer instructor. I train and instruct military and law enforcement all over the country on various law enforcement disciplines to include constitutional law, case law, patrol tactics, use of force, advanced criminal investigations, etc. And today we're going to be talking about this felony stop. Now, it appears that law enforcement conducted a felony stop because of allegedly the tags coming back that the vehicle is stolen. So it would be common procedure to conduct what is called a felony stop, where you stop the vehicle and then you order passengers out of the vehicle at gunpoint to where you can then place them in handcuffs and secure them. So as far as law enforcement practices go, the utilization of a high-risk traffic stop or a felony stop would be appropriate in this case. If in fact the vehicle was stolen, and so, or at least at the minimum reported as stolen. But as you can see, it seems like whoever the officer was that ran the plates incorrectly. Maybe he misplaced where he put a letter or a number. Maybe they ran it out of the wrong state, what have you. But this vehicle was in fact not a stolen vehicle. Another thing that I noticed with felony stops, and something that I train when I talk about felony stops, when I train felony stops, is giving commands, right? Because these people, you have them at gunpoint, right? What does that mean? It means you are pointing a weapon at something that you intend to destroy, right? That is the whole purpose of the cardinal safety rules. The cardinal safety rules just don't go away because you're a law enforcement officer. So if you're pointing your gun at somebody, you're doing so with the intent to use deadly force. If your intent is not to use deadly force, you shouldn't be pointing your gun at that thing. And I think that is something that is lost for some reason. Law enforcement just seems to completely miss that fact. And so, long story of this short, it appears, right? So they conduct a felony traffic stop, so high risk traffic stop. They're giving conflicting commands. Those conflicting commands cause this person to point himself in the wrong direction, which just causes more escalation. Obviously, they're treating him as if he is a suspect that has done something extremely wrong, only for them to run the plates correctly to find out, yeah, this car's not stolen at all. And so it's upsetting because, number one, this issue is completely preventable. I have been doing this job for a while. I've never accidentally conducted a felony stop on somebody that didn't need a felony stop conducted on them, right? Like, I've never done that before. And that's because every time that I do, because I have stopped stolen cars before, I have been in pursuits. I ran plates and, hey, it's coming back stolen. Okay, cool. Run it again for me. Cool. Run it again for me. Cool. I'm going to read it off to you. Like, dual, triple, there's concurrence, right? In naval aviation, we have something called dual concurrence, right? So somebody will read something, another person will check it, again, same thing. Okay, I'm going to run this plate one more time. Read it back to me, right? That takes not very much time, but it saves you the hassle of this. And so some would argue, and at the very end, it seemed like this individual was, the officer was trying to make it seem like it's not that big of a deal. Mistakes happen. Sure, they happen, but it's how you handle these mistakes. And also realizing that just because it was a mistake doesn't mean it doesn't come without consequence. Because some officers will just chalk this off to, okay, well, they were unlawfully detained. I would disagree. I would look at the case law that we have on the books, and I would say this isn't an unlawful detainment. This is an unlawful arrest. Okay, so we have United States v. Novak, United States v. Robertson. Novak out of 89, Robertson out of 87. The defendants were surrounded by law enforcement agents in an enclosed area of an airport. One of the officers drew a gun. That was considered to be an arrest. An officer's detention of a defendant at gunpoint was an arrest, not a Terry stop. So again, we're not talking about an unlawful detention, right? We are talking about a full-fledged arrest. When you point your weapon at somebody, you are de facto arresting them. That is an arrest. And so I think that's important that we realize, you're not just, this isn't a, hey, hold on, let me see your driver's license real quick. This is a, no, you're under arrest, and now I'm pointing a deadly use of force option at you, demanding that you subjugate yourself to the authority of that officer. So yeah, this is much more than just a simple detention. Again, do mistakes happen? They do. Does that mean the consequences for said mistakes just immediately go away? No. So again, it's important that when we look at this, we understand that, yeah, this is, these things are a big deal, and that we need to ensure that we're doing everything we can to mitigate these risks, and that we're going by the applicability of case law. And so there you have it. You guys got my spiel. My question to you guys is, what do you think? What do you think of this? How do we fix this? Right? And we've talked about this on this channel before, and if you read some of the comments, there's a lot of people that think that, and we'll probably do a video on it about different solutions. But my question to you, let me just ask you guys a very simple question. There are places here in the United States of America where they have outlawed gardening, right? They have noise ordinances. And this is done at a local level. So if we can ban gardening at a local level, if we can ban certain noises at certain times, if we can do all these things, why can't local legislators make a city ordinance or a local law that says it's a crime to unlawfully detain and arrest somebody? Curious what you have to say in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about that. Tell me if you think that's something that could be done at a local level. I'm curious to know what you guys have to say in the comment section below. Well, as always, guys, long live the Republic.